alcoholic away from the first drink with the grace of God and the help I've received from Alcoholics Anonymous. I use the sentence grace of God. And here we are talking about now being entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humbly asked Him. Who are we asking? We are asking this God, the grace. When I just said the grace of God, I'm sober only because of the grace of God. That I haven't had a drink today only because of the grace of God. What does it mean here to be entirely ready, to be to humbly ask somebody for anything and any entity? When you ask humbly, what exactly do you mean? You mean what I think it means, and this is what my sponsor told me, because nobody's an expert, I am not. And before I go further, thank you, Philip, for conducting this base back to basics workshop. You're doing a brilliant job so far, and we are all grateful to you for being here with us and holding our hands while leading us through this workshop. God bless you, Philip, always. And having said that, again, God bless Philip. It's not just me. It's got nothing to do with me. It's all got to do with that higher power, that power up there. And what exactly it means without reservation. When I say entirely ready, what I mean to say is absolutely without any reservation. If I have reservations, well, and the program doesn't work. Then why doesn't the program work? Because I cannot tell God, okay, I'm ready. Uh, I'm ready to have to remove 10% of my anger, 10% of my lust, 20% of my greed. No, you have to be entirely ready. And the second part, which I really liked when I was explaining this to me, was the fact that I can't tell him which character defect he has to take away. Half my character defects vanish the minute I stop drinking. When I stop pouring the poison of alcohol inside my system, half my character defects really vanish here. But the rest of them, I can't ask God. I can't make a priority list of my own and insist that God work according to my wants. I want to live less lust right now. That I'll keep right till the end. What you do is you take away my anger. I have to be entirely ready. It's God's choice what He takes away. It's absolutely not in my hands. Again and again, the higher power, the concept. On page 23 of 12 and 12, they are very clear. They said, unless and until you accept the fact that God is, well, you're not going to be able to work the rest of the steps, the rest of the 11 steps. So admitted powerlessness, admitted unmanageability, surrendered to win. That's what this whole thing is about. Basically, what is being said to us again and again is painstaking. The words are painstaking, thorough. We do what is asked for. It's a very precise program, a program which tells me how to recover from alcoholism, a very precise program. And what it means to me is I have to have no reservations of any type at all. I have to be entirely ready to hand my life over, and my will over to the care of God as I understood Him. Entirely ready. No reservations at all. And unless I do that, well, I may get sober. I may not drink ever again. But will I ever achieve what is really wanted from the program? Then what does the prayer say? Serenity. Serenity of mind, serenity of the spirit, serenity of the body. When you are not fighting anything, the 10-step promises you here. You stop fighting everything and anything. You don't fight anything. And that will only come once surrender is complete. And when the surrender is complete is when you're entirely ready to hand over all your character defects. No choice. You have no choice. You can't say, okay, I won't do this, and you can't do no objections and no demands, most of that. I can't demand what God has to do. It's His choice. He'll do what He has to do. All I can do is have to keep on praying that God, I am a man. I have these defects. Please, I'm handing them over to you. It's not do with them as your will is done. I want all my, and thank you, God, for that. So my refrain is always gratitude. My refrain is never a demand. My wife always prays for sanity. And what does sanity mean? Sanity means one day at a time, I'm living my life in sync with God's will, not my will. And I've said this previously also, why those words, thy will, not mine, are not a part of the serenity prayer. They are part of the third step prayer, yes, but not of the serenity prayer. For the very simple reason that whatever I do, God's will is what will prevail here. I can keep on wishing that my will prevails. I can keep on pressing for it. But at the end of the day, there's not a damn thing I can do or not a damn thing about whatever God. It's all going to be God's will. Yeah, He's the guy in charge. Me, He's my father. I'm the child. He's my principal. I'm his agent, and that's what life is all about, my friends. So welcome to our Mangalore Back to Basics program. And over to you, Philip. And God bless you, Philip. Once again, my everlasting thanks to you for conducting this beautiful Back to Basics study. Thank you.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are. You're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you're with the Mangalore group doing Back to Basics step workshop. Thank you so much for turning up, because without you guys, this workshop wouldn't be possible. And thank you for showing interest in it. You know, it adds a lot. It means a lot to me that, you know, there is, after all, something happening between you, me, and God. Or else this thing wouldn't have happened, you know. Any newcomer here we would like to felicitate? Any newcomer in the first year of sobriety, like we say regularly, could I just call out your name so that to reassure you that you're on the right path? Could you put your hands up? Suresh, welcome Suresh. Bella, Tejas, Ravi, Rajiv. Did I miss out on anyone? Shanu, Sharbat, Sarabjit, Nirasha, Randall, Subhash, Vijay, DC, Nias, boy, Harsha. Thank you guys for turning up and being sober. It's a great reaffirmation that God is working in your lives. The God of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and every other alcoholic is working in the lives of those who seek Him, you know, and that is what it is. This program is all about. And you are the blood of Alcoholics Anonymous, because you are the newcomer. Every newcomer here reassures me that this program works. You know, this program works. It certainly works. And why do we need this 12-step program? We need this 12-step program, one, because we don't have a format for living as an alcoholic. We call it instincts on rampage, you know, instincts on trial, all everything in my, you know, it's overdose of everything, you know. So for a person like me who did not know my arm from my elbow, you know, I had to find a source of living, a source of power. So why did I come here? Because I drank alcoholically. And who is an alcoholic? Any individual who cannot guarantee his or her behavior after they picked up that first drink is essentially an alcoholic. My name is Philip. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you, Hemant, for moderating the meeting. Thank you, Sandeep, Vijay, Hillary, Arun, all these guys, you know, who, you know, it's teamwork. It's the effort of everyone. That I am just a presenter. I just come here and voice it. But these are the guys behind the screen who does all the work. So thank you for felicitating and you know, making this meeting possible. And especially my heart goes out to every newcomer here. You know how difficult it is. You know, it's like getting a fish out of water and trying to keep it on land. You know. And like the saying in Alcoholics Anonymous goes, if you swim like a duck, you quack like a duck, and you walk like a duck, you probably are a duck. So hang in there, listen, see, look for the similarities, not the differences. And we're working on the 12 steps. You know, we are on step 7 today. And let me just go over why I need to have these steps and what these steps mean to me and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Why the recovery rate in Alcoholics Anonymous is more than anywhere else. Religion, medicine, and psychiatry had failed an alcoholic. Alcoholic was an outcast. He was condemned, and he was, you know, sort of palagorized, you know, by the people around him. See, least understood, the alcoholic himself does not understand himself. Forget of the people who think that he is evil, or, you know, he's a bag of sin. But, you know, being an alcoholic is not easy. So who is an alcoholic? Like I said, any individual who cannot guarantee. Now, this alcoholism is a threefold illness: a mental obsession, a physical allergy, and a spiritual bankruptcy, a mind that obsesses about alcohol. Those of you who are alcoholics like me would know when the obsession takes over, no power on earth can stop me. And my resolves most of the time is not to get drunk, but to get over that particular moment, which is probably a thought process problem or a withdrawal that sets in, to get over the withdrawal. And the problem is the moment I put a drink into my system, I cannot stop. One drink is too many and 100 are too little, and I need to move on. So this is the problem with an alcoholic. He cannot guarantee his behavior after he's picked up that first drink. So he cannot handle alcohol safely, but his mind is the going between alcohol and him that leads him or her to their ruin. And in this, the whole game, it's a game of spirituality. The way you're spiritually bankrupt. When you talk of a mental obsession and a physical allergy, when your mind is obsessing 24/7 and your body is consumed by alcohol, where is the spirit in all this? You put the spirit in the bottle into your system. So there is no other, the other spirit cannot exist by side, because the spirit that I put from the bottle is destroying me, where the other spirit is the spirit of life. That is the life in itself. So I was killing myself in installment, every time I picked up a drink. So I had to accept this fact. I'm not responsible for my sickness. I'm responsible for my recovery. But, I didn't know what recovery was all about. And I didn't know where to go and find it until I found Alcoholics Anonymous, or Alcoholics Anonymous found me, whichever way it is, So I had the first step in recovery is, I'm powerless, the personal powerlessness of an alcoholic and the unmanageability of his or her life. And I was personally powerless over my thinking. I was personally handicapped. The book says of a maladjusted personality, I am different from others, bodily and mentally different from other people, maladjusted to life. I'm mental defective. That's what they say. It's hard to bear it. It's very hard to bear that, I'm different from other people. But I had to accept this fact because my thinking was never rational. It was always irrational. I overreacted on everything that I saw. People talk to me, I overreacted. If something happened across the road, I overreacted. Everything was overreaction. So it was about how I reacted to life in general. So I had to admit personal powerlessness over alcohol in the first step and say that my life was unmanageable. Personal powerlessness. It's very difficult to say personally, I cannot control something, or I cannot put a lid on something that, that is taking my life away from me. So that was a state I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. I was torn between an alcoholic death or choose a spiritual way of life. That is what it was. I had to choose whether I wanted to live or I wanted to die drunk. I had resigned myself to drink and die because I couldn't find it, because I was, every trick in the book that I tried to moderate my drinking, control my drinking. The great obsession of every abnormal drinker is to control, to find a solution to his drinking problem, because he couldn't comprehend a life with or without alcohol. So great, is the sickness of alcohol. So personal power, I've stopped drinking so many times in my life, but I couldn't stay stopped. The longest period I was stopped was, for 2 years. And those were the best years of my life. I was young. I was in my teens, late teens. And the best years of my life. And, I was living with my grandma. After that, it took off on such a scale that I was finished. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous at the age of 32. And when I came in, I had nowhere to go. All doors had closed on me. Like one of our senior members, my scorecards read 0. It's obliterated, totally out. I didn't know what to do with myself. The people around me didn't know what to do with me. And Alcoholics Anonymous told me, admit the first step when I say you're powerless over alcohol and your life is unmanageable. I had no choice but to accept the fact that I was personal powerlessness over alcohol. But again, the second part of the first step, my life is unmanageable. How could I admit that my life was unmanageable? A guy who was omnipotent, who knew everything, suddenly you say my life is unmanageable. That is relinquishing personal control. It affected my pride. It affected my self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect. It affected all these areas when I admit the fact that I cannot drink like a normal person. And every time I drink, I break up in places. I wake up somewhere else, something happens to me. I'm off to so many things happened to me. I know in spite of all this happening, I still couldn't admit the fact that my life was unmanageable. So here, once I stopped drinking, I start addressing my unmanageability, the second part of the first step. That was something I had never addressed. They call it untreated alcoholism. See, most people go back to drinking because I can't control the logic that goes on in my head. My head is a very bad neighborhood. The book says, the doctor's opinion, that it centers in my head. My head is a very, very bad neighborhood. It's a toxic place. I dread to go there alone. Most of you resonate with that. Going to sleep with myself was my biggest issue. I had to take a drink so that the drink could tranquilize me. It could sedate me, it could numb my feelings. So at least for a few hours, I could shut reality away. So here again, I was running away from a fact called life, and that was reality. The reality was that I was living, and I couldn't acknowledge the fact that I could not live without a drink. So alcohol was but a symptom of my deeper inner lying conflicts, a symptom. When you talk of a symptom, what are a symptom? What are the symptoms of corona? You get fever, you cough, you have chest congestion, the symptoms. Similarly, what are the symptoms of alcoholism? The unmanageability of my life. I'm incapable of making decisions. I run into the lives of others, and I create such a chaos in other people's life. I make everyone who comes to me dysfunctional. So, this is the unmanageability, and that's not a nice place to be in. It's not a nice. As an alcoholic, I knew my life was going down the drain. I knew I was dying. Look at the plight time, but I couldn't do a damn about it. It's like, watching your child die and you being helpless to do anything. So were my parents. They were watching me die. I held my mother's leg. I remember once, and cried out to her, I said, "Ma, please help me. I don't want to do this." And the poor lady, she cried, and I could feel the teardrops falling on my head. Total helplessness, the total insanity that every time I picked up a drink, I thought it would be different, But the result was the same. I got drunk, and whatever followed ensued was that. So I admitted personal powerlessness over alcohol, and I started addressing the unmanageability of my life. That is the rest of the 12 steps. So for those of you newcomers who resonate with me up to this point, let's move on ahead and see what happens, when I do step 2, 3, and 4. Step 2 says, made a decision, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Coming to believe. What do I come to believe? I evolve from a non-understanding person to someone who is trying to understand. First time in my life, I'm trying to listen to something, to change my attitude towards what I thought was right. I had to, and this involved humility. Alcohol is a great persuader. If I'm not humble enough, alcohol will humble me. And that is why I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, It humbled me. It made me eat the humble pie. I didn't come here because I drank too much of Coke or even even tea, coffee, or any other energizing drink. No, I came here because I drank alcohol, and I drank alcoholically. And I wanted to change my sense of perception, my thinking, the way I, attributed my life to others. Everything changed the moment I took a drink. Profound personality change happened in me. And I became the person I thought I wanted to be. So I thought, if there's a saying, they say that alcohol gave me wings, but took the sky away from me. And that was just the thing, a life of broken dreams. Everything that I aspired for, I saw it crumble in front of me. In the program, they have the as yet. If you've not lost your job as yet, you lose it. If you've not lost your health as yet, you will lose it. If you've not lost your family as yet, you will get there. If you've not been into hospitals, you'll get there. If you've not had legal problems, you will have. In spite of all these things happening in my life, I still would say alcohol was not my problem. And that is total denial of the fact that I'm an alcoholic. They say the first symptom in alcoholism is denial. No, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't do that. I'm not in that category. This is the sort of thinking that goes with an alcoholic. The moment someone says denial is the first symptom there. So I addressed my unmanageability. The first step is I came, I accepted the fact that I'm an alcoholic and my life is unmanageable. Right. Now the next step is came to believe. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Now there's a catch here, I didn't like this thing, of handing over my will to others and saying I'm incapable of looking after myself, and handing over, coming to say that something beyond me is keeping me sober. Who said so? My effort when I stopped drinking. Why do you want to say and think that, that something else is stopping me from drinking or helping me stop drinking? This is my thinking, because self-centered. I was totally self-centered. I was self-obsessed. So the first time in my life, I was getting out of self. I had to get out of self to accept defeat. I had to get out of self to accept help. So I got out of self, and I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Yes, I was restored to sanity over a drink, because by now I had stopped drinking for a period of time. I had a sponsor, I was talking to somebody else. So my sponsor became the power greater than me, and I was willing to accept that, because this man spoke my language. There was nothing that I said that he didn't know and he didn't do. And he said it and he talked about it with such conviction that, I had to accept the fact that, he knew more than me. So, he became a higher power in my life, And the third step is made a decision. Decision making, like everyone else, is the hardest problem with most of us, making decisions. I had to influence my decision by drinking, and all the decisions that I made is what got me into Alcoholics Anonymous. So you see how good a decision maker I was. My decisions were very perfect, apt, to the point, so that at the age of 32, I was shown the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous and say, yes, you can start from here. So decision making was not one of my fortes, you see. So everyone else, the world started making decisions for me, and I couldn't say no. They say in the book, the world can do what it pleases with me, for I forfeit the rights as a citizen, because I am going to harm myself and those around me. So I forfeit the rights as a citizen when I'm drunk, So I had to, hand over my will and my life over to somebody or something that, I chose to call God. Now, when I talk of a power greater than myself, the big problem here is, here we are going to talk about the step 3, 6, and 7. There's a big connection between them. I need to know this power greater than myself. What is this power greater than myself? They say any life run on self-will, it does not last long. And my life was run on self-will. There was a reason my life was run on self-will, because if I included someone else in my sickness, I would be told not to do this, not to do that, and I wouldn't be led to do the things that my addiction makes me do. It was not human. It was inhuman what I was doing, and I knew it was inhuman. God did not create me to kill me. He created me that I could live and have sustained life and live a fruitful life. And here I was drinking to drink and die. So that's not God's will. For the first time in step 3, when I'm talking about making a decision, I'm making a decision so that I could live. Alcohol was a power greater than me. Now I had to find a source by which I could live. And this power had manifested itself into me through the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. People go to church, mosques, temples, to the gurudwaras to pray to God, or for a singleness to understand what God is all about. And similarly, I come to Alcoholics Anonymous because the synergy of the people, the like-mindedness of the people here, is what keeps me sober. It's a source, a power greater than me. I don't need any more, recommendations, because when I look at my life and what I traveled those 22 years of my alcoholism and my life before that to my life, which started changing after I accepted the fact that I was an alcoholic, just accepting the fact that I was an alcoholic, I had to come to believe that, there was something beyond me that had changed me. Something divine, a divine intervention that happened to me that, has never happened before. I was prayed over, they kept a hand on my head and prayed, thinking that there is Satan in me. Because why? My hands and legs were shaking. And why was my hands and legs shaking? Because, withdrawals had set in. How could I make these people understand that it was withdrawal and not Satan that was coming out of me? No one understood an alcoholic. They had their faith, but their faith worked for them. So my faith started developing when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. For the first time in my life, I was reassured that I don't have to drink again. Oh, what a relief that was, Imagine for a person who thought he would drink and die, or every morning I woke up cursing myself. I knew my routine, I would drink water, I would go hold the toilet bowl, puke into it till my stomach would wrench and I wouldn't have nothing to do. Then I would try to drink some water, that would come out. I tried to take a smoke until I finally took that, drink, that ease and comfort that came with the drink. I was not happy. Not happy. And I was not able to conduct myself. So from that state here, making a decision to hand over my will and my life. It's very important for you to understand that, I am handing over my will and my life over to a power that has sustained me. Look back at your life. By yourself, you couldn't do it. The help of your parents didn't do it. All the gods you called to didn't do it. But you came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and this power in the fellowship manifested itself into your life, and you stayed sober. Man, and this is the transformation. So it is a divine intervention. It is, whatever power you want to call it. This is divine intervention that has changed you from the person you were to the person you're going to become. So you're in transition, you're in transit. We have all flown in aircrafts and trains. We may have to change trains or aircraft. We are in transit. We have to disembark and embark again. So here we are in transit. We were going the wrong way. Now we've stood here. And in step 3, we are going to take the plane that's going to take us the right way. So we made a decision to turn our will and our lives. My will, my life, which had gone berserk, which had gone haywire, which was of no use to me or to anybody else. I was a threat to everyone who came into touch with me. That is the way I was. So I made a decision to turn this will and my life over to the care of God as I understood it. Very important that I understood. So I came to believe. I came to believe. So it's being formed. It's like a baby being formed, a baby being conceived. The seed has to be planted, and over a period of time, it's conceived. And it takes 9 months before the baby is born. So, you came to believe. It's only a belief till the baby is born that the baby will be born healthy, safe, or not. So I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I'm harping on this because step 6 and 7 are the steps, that's going to give you that strength to move on to step 8, where you have to make your amends. Where you're going to stand up for yourself, where you're going to look at people in the eye. You're going to look face to face and say, stand up for yourself, for a person who was a coward, who was running away from everything, including life, who took the shelter of alcohol, and alcoholism to live a life. So yes, the next step was, I made a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. Boy, was that difficult? It was to a certain extent, but it was magnified in Alcoholics Anonymous. Glaring defects of character, 4th step. My God, people, they mesmerize you. They make a big deal out of it. Supposing you're suffering from cancer, what do you do? If they ask you to take radiation or chemotherapy, you'll do it. Now, this is a sort of radiation or chemotherapy you need to do to get rid of your alcoholism. That is, take a look at yourself. The person you are running away from, the person you disliked. You need to feel that you're worthy of yourself. You're worthy of staying sober for yourself. Unless I feel I'm worth staying sober for, there's no point in working the program of stopping drinking, because stopping drinking was never your issue. So if I had to stop drinking and stay stopped, I had to address those issues that wouldn't let me stay stopped. So first is, I needed to know who Philip was. So when I look back and see, the fears and traumas that I went through as a child, and at the age of 12 or 13, when I picked up my first drink, what was my state? I had to understand that I was physically abused. I was sexually abused. I was a ball of fear. I was mentally and, spiritually broken down by the time, at the age of 12, 13, that is what happened to me. I was a victim of the demons that lived with me in my head. I was scared. I was so scared of life in itself, and alcohol was the, stress relief. It busted that stress. It gave me that reprieve I wanted. It made me free again, so I thought. So from that unmanageability, my unmanageability multiplied because alcohol became a problem. I didn't know I was an addict. I didn't know that, alcoholism was a sickness of the body, mind, and spirit. And I soaked in alcohol and I became alcoholic. Now I got rid of alcohol and the spiritual malady, which they talk about in the program. It's all about, accepting the fact that I'm an alcoholic and I need a spiritual way of life. The only solution to this, the whole sickness of alcoholism, is a spiritual way of life. So in my way of saying, when I say spiritual, spirit, and ritual, that means we had a spiritual malady. Why? Because the spirit didn't have a ritual, a discipline. So this program is all about discipline. So once I say spiritual, spirit, and ritual, this program is all about disciplining the spirit, disciplining the mind to cater to the needs of the spirit, so I may put it, right? So my mind had to be trained into a new way of life, into a new way of thinking. And now I had this power greater than myself, which had restored me to sanity, and I'm handing over my will and my life over to this power. It's a leap. It's a big quantum leap you're taking. You and I are taking, or I took. But that faith, that can move mountains, moved me and my alcoholism from me. It was a chance. It's like taking a lottery, I thought, because I was skeptical. I didn't trust anyone or anything, including myself. I said, nothing work. What will this work? How it will happen? Anyway, I'm thinking, what do I have to lose? This is what it is, So I didn't lose. What I gained was a life beyond my wildest dreams. So when I started looking into my fourth step, I looked at myself, I found, I had been through so much. And I had not discussed this with anyone or anything, and I bottled it up. We called it bottled up emotions. And everyone knows what happens with bottled up emotions. When there is an outburst, you don't know where it falls, whom it hits, it, what happens around you. There's wreckage all around. It's like the guy who walks out of the storm cellar after the tornado. That's what it was. I was looking and I was feeling sorry for myself. That's where the sponsor comes and says, Philip, you don't have to feel sorry for yourself. Let's sit down and let's talk this. And that is what step 4 is about. I see my character defects. If you can go back, if you have your booklet with you, you go to page 25 of the, workshop book, it's there. What are my character defects? It's pride, it's lust, it's anger, it's greed, it's gluttony, envy, sloth, dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, low self-esteem, inconsiderate, jealousy, bad gossip, judgmental, unforgiving, and controlling others. Oh my God, did I have so much in me? How did I live with all this in my system? How could I be at peace if I had this tormenting me every day? This 12 or 14 of these insurgents, like these terrorists that are sabotaging my mind every day, and I was living with them. The program says, get rid of them. You don't need them anymore. Get rid of them. Be at peace with yourself. So I admitted to God, to myself, and to another human being, which was difficult. I loved living in the shit that I was in. I liked swapping the comfort zone. That I had to come out of that comfort zone. So I came out of that comfort zone, and I admitted to another person, though it was very uncomfortable. But when I finished my 5th step, I can tell you what a relief it was. I had bottled up so much of my feelings. What if people knew about it? What the world would condemn me? I had already condemned myself. So I looked at everyone and everything the way I felt. All those feelings, left me. I felt sort of free. I slept like a baby that night. That thing didn't traumatize me. That neighborhood, was peaceful for the first time. All the barking, the screaming, and everything, just quieted for the day. And but it didn't stop there. It couldn't stop there, because I had this experience of untreated alcoholism. Complacency gets in my way. If I lay back and rest on my laurels and say, oh, step 5 is over, now let me have some peace. As alcoholism was progressive, so is your sickness of alcoholism. Alcoholism is a progressive sickness. It's not just the body, mind, your spirit. It progresses to such extent that it affects everyone and everything around you. So I had to find out the causes and reasons why I did become the alcoholic I am. And I couldn't do it. I had to have it with God's help. So in step 6, what does it say? I had to, hand over my character defects to God, and say that God, I am not capable of handling this. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Now, when you say all, I just read a few of them. There may be many more, and some indulgent, so what you call, I have this, addictive personality. I succumb to, any what you call habit that pleases me or gives me an uplift. They call it the dopamine effect. In anything that gives me that effect of feeling nice or wellness, I'll get into it. It could be sexual, like it could be masturbation, or watching porn. It could be gambling. It could be making money. It could be gluttony. Anything, overindulgence. That used to be my, forte. So if there was no alcohol, something had to keep me going. Something had to keep me pumped up. But alcohol in the end was a depressant, and I was depressed all the time. All those old feelings of glory and fame and everything had vanished. There was nothing but darkness, only gray areas all over the place. So I had to, I was, on a flight from reality. Now here I am, I'm asking God, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, which we talked about yesterday. And the next is humbly asked him to remove my shortcomings. Humbly. Humility for an alcoholic like me. Oh my God, I didn't know what humility was. For me, humility was doing namaskar or falling at somebody's feet, or what was tangible to my thinking. And my thinking was not much. It was, I was a nutter, and my thinking, little things affect little minds. And I was a petty-minded guy with everything that affected me. And to me, humility were these sort of things. So when I had to understand that humility is being me, it was very difficult. How could I was the fake artist? I was a con artist. I presented myself on the stage that I presented myself. I would be anyone I wanted to be. I would fake myself to be. Give me 2 drinks and I could speak 12 languages. That was the type of person I was. And I had to, compromise on those things. That is humility. I had to be me. Here is where the perfection of God comes in, where I share, when God created Philip or created you, he created a masterpiece. He created a perfect human being. I am the one who found blemishes in myself. I was insulting God by doing that. I was insulting God and his creation. To God, a blind man is a perfect human being. A lame person is a perfect human being. Someone with a tarnished face is a perfect human being. I am the one who compares. In my comparisons, that I see someone different. And that's not human. So alcohol humbled me. It beat me to reasonableness. I couldn't surmount the pain anymore that I was going through. I knew I was hurting everyone. I was hurting myself, and that is the hurt I was passing on to others. I didn't want to hurt the people I love. Why was I doing it? And here's the answer when you do step 6 and 7, When you humbly ask God to remove your shortcomings, what are your shortcomings? I read it, your pride, your lust, your greed for money, power, property, all these things, Because it's preparing me. These are the 2 steps. It says it separates the men from the boys. For the first time in my life, I started taking responsibility for myself. I started seeing things with clarity. I could see things differently. I could envision myself being accepted back into the norms of life as a human being. Once shunned, once rejected, today I was being reinstated into a life that I had never envisioned. People started reciprocating to me. Most of us have done that. When we start standing up for ourselves in our own homes, people are skeptical. How long is this going to last? Why is this person doing this? We start asking questions. We start being responsible. So first, from earlier, we have done these things, but we crashed everyone's expectations there. And that was, I fell in my own eyes. Because every time I promised myself I would do the same thing again. And what is it? What sort of self-worth, self-respect, or self-esteem does a person have? So I started trusting myself. And here I had God's help. I had handed over the third step, make the decision, handed it over to GOD, the gift of desperation, a group of drunks, I handed it over. And here in step 6 and 7, I am handing over my character defects and I'm humbly asking him to remove my shortcomings. Now, what are these shortcomings? The shortcomings are the things that make me go and get drunk. That is my untreated alcoholism, my irritability, my restlessness, my discontentment, my lack of power, my lack of understanding, fear that still grips my life because I want to hold on to some of those unreasonable fears that I live with. So I had to let go, and without God's help, that is not possible. I understood that. Now, this problem here was, I didn't see God. For me, I have to see things to believe. And that's where, my sponsor said, look at the lot in Alcoholics Anonymous. They were as hopeless or worse than you when they walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. Do you see a smile on their face? Do you see families reunited? Do you see them back in health, wealth, and prosperity? Yes, I said, okay, that's God working in their life. So you need to believe that that same God is working in your life. So I had to reinstate my belief system. I started to believe again that God is everything or God is nothing. Step 6 and 7, those are the steps, I don't do anything. I let God work in my life. And for that, I had created a base in 3, 4, and 5. In 3, I handed it over, made a decision. 4 and 5, I looked at myself, the pittance that I was, the person that I was, the person I was running away from, the person I dreaded to look at. I saw myself with another human being that gave me a confidence. If I could sit down with him, I can hand it over to God. So you see the transition that is happening. There's a profound change that is happening in me from the time I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, a divine intervention and a profound personality change in step 1 and 2, and step 3, I hand it over. So that change is just happening. It's a spiritual understanding. It's spiritually, I'm growing. They say when the spiritual malady is overcome, the alcoholic is on his way. So the spiritual malady of not wanting to know myself, the denials have all fallen off. I'm trying to live a truthful, fruitful life. I don't want to tell lies. I don't want to cheat people. I don't want to be a braggart. I don't want to be a worship monger. I don't want to be a sexologist. No, I want to be me for the first time in my life. I started laughing. Oh my God, that was taboo. How could I laugh? I was scared if I laughed, I would cry. And that's the sort of negativity I had. So I started laughing. The gift of laughter was returned back to me. And, I started, when you're talking about the 6 and 7, it always resonates to me about the story of this little kid, who was on a ship sailing, from a continent to another continent. And there was a very bad storm, which was going to break the ship down. And so the captain gives orders to all its crew, take the lifeboats and escape, because this ship is going to be struck down and it's going to sink. And so there was this little kid on the ship, who was oblivious to all this, playing with a small toy in his hand. And the captain had ordered, take that kid also with you, because, being the ship's captain, it's a code and the ethic that everyone leaves the ship before the captain leaves the ship, But this child refused to budge. Why did this child refuse to budge? Because he had faith. They called the child and asked him, why do you not want to go? He says, I don't want to go because the captain of the ship is my father. He trusted his father. He believed in his father. After you and I have been through whatever we've been through and come this far in this program to start handing over our will and our lives over to the care of God and humbly asking him to remove my shortcomings, those inadequacies in me that had made me the demon that I was. You think he won't do it? Faith that can move mountains, faith beyond everything else. By now, I had faith in the program and I was willing to let God remove these defects of character. And I humbly asked him, I put my head down, prayed, God, each of these character defects, my lust, remove it from me. My pride, remove it from me. I used to smoke, my smoking, remove it from me. one by one, they were all taken away. Nowhere in the book it says that I'll be rendered white as snow. No, I will have those character defects and I will die with them. But I know how to deal with them today. They are no more ruling my life. That's the difference. They no more dictate terms to me. So when I come to this, I have to ask this God of my understanding, as to how and when and where I can do this. So I humbly asked him to remove my shortcomings. I will stop for today by reading the 7-step prayer. Once I have finished my 7th step, it says, my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in my way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. That means, what am I asking God? I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character. What a loving, what a compassionate God we have. In spite of the person I thought I was, God loves me. And he's using me in the lives of others. So I thought God was, I was a useless, helpless, hopeless, useless human being. I'm being used, I'm being empowered to reach out for those who don't understand this program. And that's the gift that God has given me. And then to use that in the right way, rather than on my, now, where does this come from? No, I pray that you remove everything that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. So ask yourself this question, for those of you who are doing step 7. When I ask God to remove my shortcomings, understand what my shortcomings are. Understand what my character defects are. What it did to me as a practicing alcoholic. I needed those character defects. Yes, I needed those shortcomings, because without them, I may not have survived my alcoholism. I needed to lie, cheat, do all those things that I did. Today, I take responsibility for it. That's the big difference. I'm standing on my feet. I'm looking people in the eye. In step 8, when we go there to step 8, you'll see that, the list that we made of names, people that whom we have hurt or caused damage to, how are we going to deal with them? How different segments, how we deal with them, so that we would be set free from the bondage of fear. From step 8, it is freedom from the bondage of self. And that's why in step 8, the prayer says, if we are painstaking, that means it was difficult coming. If you're painstaking about this phase of our development. So it was going to be a painstaking effort to get to step 7. But let me tell you, once you get there, your life would have changed beyond your wildest dreams. Not that it has not changed. For those who have stopped drinking for even 24 hours, it takes 72 hours for you to clear up. And then, the first few weeks, if you're in touch with the fellowship and with and adhering the rule or the precepts of the fellowship, the freedom that you enjoy would be beyond your wildest dreams. And that is God working in your life. I'll sum up for tonight, and until next weekend, I wish you all a very happy, prosperous, and a relieving, a God-centered life from, you ask God to remove your shortcomings. Right now, you can go to sleep peacefully. Thank you very much. Good night. Good luck. God bless.
Wow, Philip. Thank you so much. And I think I can say it for everybody, brilliant here. I mean, that's only, I can call it fantastic, brilliant, whatever. You really are good. And thank you so much for taking us through this. Questions, guys?